Green looked the part. I mean, he absolutely looked the part. He made the throws. I think he had they not blown the whistle. I mean, obviously they don't want to tackle the quarterback. They don't want to risk hurting him. But had they not blown the whistle as early as they did when he would take off and run, there's no doubt in my mind with a constant clock that never stopped, mind you, he would have had over 300 yards of offense, probably at least another score that, again, would have counted but didn't because they wiped it because they just, as soon as there's hands on the quarterback, they just don't, they blow the whistle. But rightfully so. Again, you don't want to hurt your quarterback. But, yeah, Taylon Green was the I mean, he made the highlights today without a doubt. Him and Jaquindon Jackson too, the Utah running back, the transfer. He also looked the part. You know, can't give it all to Green, but yeah, it was impressive. I mean, for a spring game, it was impressive.
Yeah, 15 of 21, 242, 3 touchdowns. Hit Andrew Armstrong 3 times for 52 yards. Your thoughts about Armstrong, some of the other receivers?
Yeah, Armstrong, who suffered he pulled his hamstring a little while back, and he missed a little bit of practice, and came back this last week. I watched him, 11-on-11 fastball and 7-on-7 when it's receivers versus defensive backs. For anyone who's not aware what that is. But you've got a smart audience, so I'm sure they do. But yeah, I thought my kid just came in the room. Apparently dinner's ready. I watched Armstrong quite a bit. He bounced back really strong this week. Had a strong week of camp, and so it wasn't really a shocker to see him have a pretty good day. And then Broden, I've been pretty high on him since about the second week of spring. Since the second week of camp, he just looks like nobody wants to cover him. Nobody wants any piece of him. I mean, you could tell when they're trying to get someone to pull up on 7-on-7s to take him on. You could tell there's a little bit of hesitancy, a little bit by the DBs. He's just had such a good spring. I don't want to fill up the Kool-Aid too much. You know what I mean? But he had a really strong spring camp, and last year he got off to a slow start because he was battling injuries and he had all sorts of stuff going on. This last week he had I think he had a close friend of his pass away or a family member or something to that extent. So, he rightfully so. He took a little time away, but he was back today and looked the part. Like I said, from about the second week on, I've been on the Broden bandwagon for sure. He's looked really good. Isaiah Centenia comes from Fayetteville High. He's I kind of thought he would have a bigger day. Not that he had a bad day, but I kind of thought we'd see a little bit more of him. And I know too, in the second half, they didn't play the starters. So it's, again, not a big surprise, but he's still another guy all through camp has just been consistent. He's a potential, I think he's a potential star, assuming he's fully bought in. I don't know why he wouldn't be, right? With Bobby Petrino as the OC. And as long as these guys remain coachable and just continue to work on their game and they're building off their routes and being on the same page with the quarterback, as well as I do, that's pivotal as well. And it seems like they've got a pretty good relationship with Green. He doesn't have just one favorite target. He likes those three specifically. He likes throwing them the ball a lot. Varkey's Gums, who, and I made this comment earlier on my post scrimmage, and I said it all through the week. He's been a favorite target through camp. He's another one who I thought would have an even bigger day than he had. I think he ended up with one catch for like 10 yards or something. Not a great day for him, but I think a lot of what we've seen through camp is a reluctancy of these quarterbacks, no matter who it is, to actually try to push the ball deep. They like going to their checkdowns. That's why the short yardage stuff, the over the middle routes to Centenia, Luke has the other tight end, and Varkey's Gums. That's why these guys have racked up some numbers through spring camp. Well, today they actually tried to spread their wings a little bit and fly. That offense, Mark, I mean, we know who's calling the plays, and he looked good. I calling the offense. I thought they were strong. The receivers were all, I don't think they had but maybe 2 drops all day. And so it was a strong showing by Taylon Green and by the receivers.
Ty, we've been watching KJ Jefferson for so long, and he's been such a part of what this outfit has been for the last 4 years, and he has been the guy that you go directly from KJ Jefferson to Taylon Green. So I'm not going to say it's easy to make a comparison, but make a comparison for us in terms of style of play, strengths, weaknesses, build, all of it.
Yeah, so KJ, 6'3", 240, whatever it was. I mean, he ran the ball. He ran the ball like a I don't want to say like a tall running back. You don't see very many 6'3" running backs, but he was so physical as a runner. Not a lot of finesse. He just ran you over, and it was like it's kind of what you expect to see in the SEC, a very tough league. The physicality is something that they take pride in here, and he kind of, I mean, he was. I don't know. When you think SEC, for some reason, you think of these guys that can do stuff like that. Just not at quarterback, and he that's what he was good at, right? And a couple of years ago, I can remember. I think it was PFF. I think it was Pro Football Focus that broke down his deep ball numbers, and they were really good. I mean, he had really good deep ball numbers, if I remember that correctly. And even the year before that, when he had Treylon Burks, and there was no real big drop off after they lost Burks in all the quarterback stats. He was still, I mean, he was the guy. He put this team on his shoulders and carried them across the finish line to get them to the Outback Bowl, the final Outback Bowl. I know they changed the name since, and then to get them to a bowl game and beating Kansas in that game. And last year, again, you and I pondered over just what happened. I still put a lot of the blame on the offensive line. Dan Enos, KJ regressed. He's a system quarterback. KJ was, whereas I don't know about Taylon. Taylon is going to operate a little bit different offense here at Arkansas under Petrino. It's not going to be like what they ran at Boise. What little I know about the Boise State offense, 6'6", runs. And someone today actually at the game made an interesting comparison. They said, he reminds me of Matt Landers, who played wide receiver at Arkansas, who was 6'6", similar build. Was a wide receiver and dropped a 4.38 40 at the NFL Combine. Now, I don't know that he runs. I don't know that he's that fast, but that was a very interesting comparison when he said that. And the more I thought about it, I was like, oh, my God, they've got Matt Landers playing quarterback. He could move. I don't know quite yet. The biggest thing that separates them would probably be that he's not a hulk of a running back like KJ was. He's not going to run guys over. He's just going to run by them. Unfortunately, and Petrino put it best when he was talking about Lamar Jackson when he had him at Louisville. And we know what Lamar ended up going on to do at college and in the pros, still doing in the pros. But he said, we didn't know what we had in Lamar until we actually turned the lights on, until it was full speed, full tackle, full go. In other words, when it was game time, we didn't know what we had. We had an idea, but we didn't know he was that good. We didn't know he was that capable. I think it's going to be something similar to Green. Now, I'm not comparing Green to Lamar Jackson. I'm only saying I don't know that we're going to know his full potential until we see him. And I get it. You could say that about all positions, every player, but especially Taylon Green. I think we're going to have a pretty good idea of what he can offer the offense when it's go time for real.
Tusk Talk with Ty. It's right here on YouTube, folks. Arkansas football talk, baseball also in full swing, of course. Rocket Sanders obviously had a huge, enormous season a couple of years ago. When he was healthy and on the field, it was pretty special. He's in South Carolina. AJ Green moves on. You mentioned Jaquindon Jackson coming in from Utah. Do you think he can be, like, no doubt number one, or how are they going to work through the first 2 or 3 backs?
I don't know. We got to get through the portal, and I'm starting to wonder if they don't lose a running back to the portal, but they've all had their moments through camp where I'm just like, okay, he's clearly the starter. Like Augustive, there's been a couple of times, Isaiah Augustive, who took off at the end of last season. He started to look like an SEC running back as a true freshman. He started to really take that on, and had a really good start to spring camp. And then all of a sudden we started seeing Jaquindon Jackson well, I shouldn't say just all of a sudden, because he too out the gate was you could see it. This guy is a potential. Maybe he's a 800, 900,000 yard plus back. I don't know. So I think it'll likely be because Jaquindon was with the ones today, and Dubinion ran with the ones as well. And then Dominic Johnson, who could catch the ball. This is a guy they've moved to tight end 2 different times. They've had him work with the tight ends and had him. I think he's played the position in a game scenario. I think a couple of years ago they had him in at tight end. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm getting that mixed up. But and then Braylon Russell, the freshman out of Little Rock. I mean, he looks the part. He had a really nice run today. He had 40, I think almost 40 yards off just 5 carries and a touchdown. So yeah, it could be a running back by committee, and it could look similar to when they had, Rocket and AJ Green and those guys. It could be similar that it's going to be a running back by committee, and or someone. I mean, you know how this works out. We think that, and then all of a sudden we're hearing nothing but about Jaquindon Jackson, who's getting 15, 20 carries a game, and he just kind of separates himself from the field. But I think it was Sam or Bobby Petrino one said that they felt pretty confident that they have a 1,000-yard rusher in that backfield. I don't know who it is. I would assume it's going to be Jaquindon, but I don't know, man. I've liked what I've seen out of Rashad, and last year he was dealing with some injuries, and again the offensive line, that offensive line didn't allow anyone to have any success, no matter who was snapping or who was getting the snaps at quarterback or who was running the ball as a running back. It didn't matter. So it's kind of hard to hold what happened last year against anybody, including KJ Jefferson, by the way. It's hard to hold everything against any one player when you've got an offensive line that was so discombobulated like they were a year ago. So maybe with this new front, we'll have there's a renewed, maybe we'll get back to what you expect Arkansas to do, which is produce really good running backs and have a lot of success on the ground with Petrino, who, by the way, Petrino's first year here, he had a 1,000-yard rusher, and Michael Smith. People forget about him. Niall Davis, Dennis Johnson. He's had successful running backs in his offenses. So, yeah, I think it's going to be running back by committee, but someone could separate themselves. And if I had to guess who that would be, I would guess right now, as of April 13th, 2024, it would be Jaquindon.
Our man Jackson Johnson is showing up for us here at the Voice of College Football, and showing up for Ty as well, letting everyone know Ty Hudson gives us top-notch coverage of the Arkansas Razorbacks. Let's help Ty reach 6,000 subs. So Jackson has dropped the link. It's in the chat. There it is. It's in the chat. Get on over there and check out what Ty's got on a daily basis. And now that spring football is over, just soak it all up, everything that he's provided for the last few weeks. He's out at practice all the time. So check it out. Ty, these are the players that Sam Pittman named on defense as standouts today. He said Landon Jackson, Cam Ball, Xavier Sori, Carson Dean, Brad Spence, and Jaden Johnson in the secondary. Anybody there that stood out for you?
Brad Spence, 100%. Brad Spence today, and I like Xavier Sori. I like him a lot. He's a former 5-star, transferred here out of Georgia, but he never really shined, like stood out. You know what I mean? As the alpha on out of the linebacker core. And yet I've watched Brad Spence a little bit, and he kind of has, I feel like, had some better moments through camp. And then we have today, I have his numbers here, 3 TFLs, a sack, and I have him down for 2 QB hurries and 5 tackles. Now, my numbers may not match everybody else's. I might be off just a little bit, but I think that's pretty close. Regardless, and I need to go back and watch because I was at the game. So
you're a scorekeeper, Ty, at these games.
I try. It's difficult. I got invited. There's another Razorback show that invited me down to go sit down with them, and so I didn't finish out the second half stats. But yeah, I definitely kept up with the first half. I've got all those numbers play by play here in front of me. They're not super accurate, but I try my best when you don't have a pair of binoculars, But the best seat in the house is always at home, when you got the TV and the cameraman working for you. But yeah, I thought Brad Spence I liked what I saw out of him big time. Jalen Braxton, he's a potential, Mark, he's a potential all SEC caliber corner. If he's not already one this year when they do their preseason stuff, when they hand out the accolades, he's just so impressive. He's just and he's not afraid to get in there and tackle somebody. But yeah, I would say for me, Brad Spence stood out. Yeah, Landon Jackson and Cam Ball. Yeah, Cam Ball he blew up a play in the backfield. It looked like it was him, anyways. But yeah, those guys certainly had a really good day. There's some stuff I need to go back and rewatch for sure on television. But yeah, I was impressed by the ones on defense. I thought primarily they did a pretty sound job. Now I know they still need some pieces. I was a little surprised today to hear Sam not talk about maybe putting linebackers as a preference. He said if they would like to go get maybe one older linebacker out of the portal, someone with a little bit of experience under their belt, but he did mention defensive line, offensive line, and maybe grabbing another wide receiver. But I feel like they do need to stock up linebacker just a little bit more.
So Sam Pittman was pretty upfront about that. We got to go to both lines of scrimmage and linebacker in the transfer portal.
Yeah, that's what he said today in his post game or post scrimmage. I'm glad he was. He's pretty transparent when he talks about the transfer portal, and I appreciate that because they don't have to be. It kind of gives away what you're doing a little bit because there's going to be other schools listening in. Like, what's Arkansas up to? Not that Arkansas is a huge threat in the SEC this year, but yeah, they're assuming they can get the NIL going. I know what's going on. You and I talked briefly about the bigger fish to fry because of basketball and Coach Cal coming to Arkansas, but there's been a lot of talk about the NIL and what it's done for basketball. Well, Mark, I know you're up there in Big Ten country. A lot of your viewers are Big Ten. They kind of look down on Arkansas as this little podunk backwoods. We walk around without shoes on. We ride horses to school and work. There's a lot of money here. There's a lot of money, and it's not just the Waltons. It's not just Walmart money. It's J.B. Hunt. It's John Tyson. It's the George Chicken family. There's a lot of money around these parts, along with the vendors who get sucked in down here because of Walmart. They want to be closer to Walmart HQ, so we get a lot of bigwig vendors down here, and some of them have, from what I understand, they do give a little bit of money to the university. It's everywhere down here, and they flexed for basketball, and they've done it before. Their NIL's been competitive, and now it's holy cow. So now it's like, can they maybe do that for football? What's going on? Like, what? Let's do that. Let's flex on football a little bit in the NIL. And so maybe they do with these last 5 scholarships. Maybe they'll go out and they'll grab somebody big that no one expects, assuming there's a big fish out there for them to get.
I'm going to break one of my own rules, and I'm going to ask you a basketball question. Did anyone have any clue, any hint to this John Calipari move to Arkansas?
Someone in my Discord, we did a prediction. Who after Muss left, we do these predictions in the forums in Discord, and the prediction was who's going to be the next head coach. Only one person picked Cal, and it was one of my mods. And his head's going to get so big. It's already big from all this, but John Hawes made this prediction. I think I'd have to go back and look at the date, but that was the first time I ever saw, and I thought he was kidding. Now, I don't know if he has legit sources or not. I know he tries to crawl into some DMs here and there, just to get the inside, get some information when and where he can, which is still cool. I mean, I do the same. So, and he put Cal out there, and he was, again, I thought he was kidding. I kind of laughed, like, yeah, okay, Cal, right. He's going to leave Kentucky. And he does, and he got it right. But no, I don't think anyone really saw that. I mean, Saturday we had everyone telling us it was Will Wade, and I'm not a fan of Wade. I've called him Wiretap Will for the last couple of years. I mean, he was caught. They caught him on a documentary. It was on HBO. You can hear him over the phone talking about paying these players compared to the G League or whatever. I mean, he's such a scoundrel, Mark. I don't want a scoundrel. I mean, I know they're probably all scoundrels. I know Cal kind of rubs people a certain way, and he's had his own issues, right? But now this stuff is legal, to be fair, what you can do with NIL. Yeah, I wasn't a fan of the Wade stuff. And so obviously Cal was just unbelievable. And I still, I mean, it almost feels like a fever dream, like, wow, they got Cal. We'll see if he lives up to what they're paying him and what they're doing in the NIL. But I something tells me they're going to be extremely competitive with everyone that comes into the portal. And they were under Muss. I mean, let's not get it twisted. They did a good job under Musselman, but it feels like Cal, it's like a steroid shot, like, wow, it just woke up everybody. The excitement for basketball is the highest I think it's been since I've been doing this. I know that for sure.
Yeah, it's a great basketball school, no question. It's been a great football school. So, get to a bowl game, is that all the hope is here, or what are people there usually has to be, for a fan base, there has to be some kind of expectation, like conference championship, or at least get to a bowl game, or depending on obviously what it's been recently.
Yeah.
So how do you motivate a fan base, give them any kind of incentive or drive to watch this football team? What's the marker out there?
Well, they open up down in Little Rock against UAPB, University of Arkansas Pine Bluff, and no disrespect to them, that's already not a crowd drawer, and I don't know what that's going to look like. It's not going to look good on TV. I know that. I think it's on ESPNU, I think. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, there's, as long as I've been doing this, I think the last time expectations were this low was when they just fired Chad and they hired Sam Pittman. Now, again, this might be the lowest they've been since I've been doing this. Chad Morris, there's still, even after year one, there was hope. I had so many people telling me that, like, oh no, that was just whatever. Year two, he's going to pick it up. And I can remember I caught a lot of flack when I said I think Chad Morris deserves quite a bit of the blame for what happened in year one. And for whatever reason, the excitement felt more palpable then. It wasn't a lot. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't a lot. Don't get it twisted, anybody who's watching this. I know fans, there were a lot of fans who now, in hindsight, being 2020, they're like, oh, no, we were not excited for year two. But I can tell you the people that were coming through my live chats and in Discord and when I was reading on Twitter, there was still like this. Last year was just it was just a mistake. We're going to fix it in year two. And we're going to be fine because it's Chad Morris. Look what he did at SMU and his one decent year. We won 7 games, and he was the offensive coordinator for Dabo at Clemson. I mean, come on, he's going to get this thing turned around. And so going from that to Sam Pittman, who I said at the very beginning, he's an in-between hire. There was an appreciation that the guy wanted to be here. There was certainly that, but I don't know that the excitement for that year one was really that high. It didn't seem like it. And then year one, you win 3 conference games. It should have been 4 with the Auburn game, but I'm not going down that road. I love bringing that up though. And so that kind of heightened the expectation a little bit. Like, wait a minute, we really should have won 4 SEC games. When's the last time we've done that? And I can remember going into that year, I said, well, I've got Arkansas at 8-4. I think they're going to win 8 games. And they did. They went on and they ended up winning that, and they beat Penn State in the bowl game. But yeah, I don't know that I've seen it this low. And I don't know how they're going to draw fans to UAPB, Mark. I'm so anti playing in Little Rock. I'm so against it. It costs money. You can't bring recruits down to Little Rock. And we've heard past coaches before say that they kind of have to treat this as an away game. I do not like playing down there. And so that's how you're going to start the year off, with no real excitement in football. You're going to start off against UAPB in Little Rock. If you even slightly struggle in that game, which they could, I don't think they will, but God only knows until we see it. If they do, oh my gosh, I mean, I don't know. It's going to take a lot, and obviously week 2 you've got Oklahoma State. Yeah, if you go to Stillwater, Oklahoma, and you beat them, okay, yeah, now the light bulb is switched back on, and now the excitement is back. It's all it takes. Winning cures everything. If you start off 2-0 and you got UAB coming into town, you feel pretty strongly, well, wait a minute, maybe we can win 3 games. And then you open up conference play September 21st in Auburn, Alabama. So then you know how it goes. The momentum starts to come back. So that's what it's going to take. They're going to have to beat Oklahoma State. They're going to have to not look like crap against UAPB down in Little Rock. And then we'll see. We'll have to pick it up from there. But Yeah, I don't know what to expect from this team right now. I'm not putting out a too early prediction like I did last year. I'm not doing that. I've learned from my mistakes. I'll wait until after fall camp, I guess.
Well, Ty, I got to say that because that Auburn game's on the road, and I do expect them to be an improved football team, and it's difficult to win in Jordan Hare,
Mm-hmm.
that it doesn't look real promising out of the gate here. Auburn, Texas A&M, Tennessee's at home, LSU. That's a rough 4 games to get started.
Nobody wants that. No one wants. I'm sure there's a more difficult 4-game stretch somewhere, but that's a tough at Auburn and A&M and Arlington, which again, that's another thing. I wish they would stop. I wish that was a home and home. Tennessee and Fayetteville, LSU and Fayetteville. Then you're off to Starkville for the 5th game. Yeah, those 4. I mean, Mark, I don't know that Hunter would be willing to pull the trigger on Sam that quick in October. But my gosh, if you lose to Oklahoma State and you go into SEC play with just a 2-1 record, and then you go on a losing streak again, getting ready for November, I don't know how he survives. I really don't. I don't know how he gets through that. Now, Petrino is the X factor in all this, right? I mean, they're tied together too, by the way. If anyone, I'm surprised I'm not asked this more often. I think they're tied together. No matter what happens to one is going to happen to both. If Sam is let go, now I could see Petrino in an interim head coach, and boy, that would be interesting, wouldn't it? For him to be the interim head coach after what happened back in 2012, for him to have that position back, that would be something else. But depending on what he would do, I just don't think he's a realistic candidate for the next head coach, depending on what happens with Sam. I again, I don't want to put out it too early, but I just have such a hard time seeing them make a bowl game this year. Things are bad right now for Arkansas football. There's just not much going on. Like, the excitement is you've got the number 1 team in the country in baseball right now, and they're always good. They're always a top 10, top 5 caliber baseball program. In basketball, after making 3 straight Sweet 16s, back-to-back Elite Eights, that program is starting to get back to where it once was, the basketball program, and now you've got Cal. Football just feels like an afterthought right now, and that's just, I don't know. It's pretty disappointing, and especially if you're a Hog fan. And a majority of my audience, they're Razorback football fans. Definitely pulled some basketball and a little bit of baseball here and there, but the excitement factor, I think, is the lowest. I don't know. I don't know that I've ever seen it this low, especially since doing what I do now, covering it here on YouTube.
Yeah, and it makes sense. And somebody's going to have to jumpstart this program, and we'll see if Sam Pittman's able to rekindle what he initially did in 2020, or if there's got to be some kind of transition. All right. Ty, appreciate you being here.
Yeah.
Let everyone know where they can find you.
Yeah, well, I mean, just you can follow me on Twitter at Tuss Talk or Ty Hudson 83, either one of those accounts, and I'm on Tuss Talk on here on YouTube. I don't go anywhere else, Mark. I'm just old fashioned. I'm not on Spotify. I'm not on Twitch and Twitter and Facebook. I mean, I am on Twitter. I don't go live on Twitter, and I'm on Facebook, but I don't go live on Facebook. So maybe one day I will. I need to get out of my I need old habits need to die. I need to do that. I need to branch out and get on Spotify and some other places. But yeah, if you want to find me live, or if you want to watch my content and you're an SEC or a Razorback fan, you can find me right here on YouTube at just Tuss Talk with Ty.